Hey, seventh graders, how you guys doing? Hope you had an awesome weekend. Before you get into this new chapter of chapter 10, I want to make sure there was quite a few of you that needed to do some test corrections. If you complete those, you can boost your grade up a little bit. So make sure you're also looking at that. If you did not get a test correction in your Google Classroom, that means you did not need to get one because you did great. Okay, so keep in mind that's another assignment today. You also have Khan Academy due on Friday. Okay, so we're going to move on to chapter 10, and we're going to talk a little bit about probability. So this first section here is simply just some informal measures of probability, just kind of like an introduction to it. We don't get into it too much, and a lot of it is common sense. So hopefully it won't be too bad here towards the end of the year. So cool little set of dice here. They're spinning, and it's showing you what's called an experiment. Anytime you involve something that has chance to it, like rolling a dice or picking a random card out of a bag, that's called an experiment. Okay, every time you repeat that experiment, it's called a trial. And the results are called outcomes. So a set of one or more outcome is an event. So those are all kind of probability terms that you need to know. So when I say an event, you know what that means. When I say an experiment, you know what it means. Trial, outcome, so on and so forth. So that kind of gives you very general words about probability. Now, the probability of an event is how we measure how often or how likely something is to occur. We write it using an uppercase P with the event in parentheses. So that's how we notify or signify that it's probability we're talking about. There's a couple different types of events. You can have a simple event, which is one single outcome, or you can have a compound event, which is two or more events. Every time we measure probability, it's a fraction or a percent, and it goes between 0 and 1. So the fraction goes between 0 and 1, and then we can sometimes also show it as a percent or a decimal. So way back when we were converting percents and decimals and fractions, this is part of the reason why. So if you look at this chart down here, this is talking about how likely something is going to happen. So if you have a chance of it never happening or a 0% chance, we call that impossible. If you have something that falls between 0 and half, that would be unlikely. So for example, 1/4, if you have a probability of 1 in 4, then that means it's an unlikely event. Okay, anything smaller than that up to 0 or anything greater than that up to 1/2 is unlikely. If you're smack dab in the middle at 1/2 or 50%, that's kind of neutral, right? It could happen or it couldn't happen. They're equally either likely or not likely to happen. So we call that as likely as not. Kind of a tongue twister. Anything now to the right of that, it increases. So if you have something in between 1/2 and 1, it's a pretty likely event that it'll happen. And then finally, if you have a probability of 1 or 100%, it is certain. Okay, so today we're going to kind of use these numbers and words to explain our probability. All right, so first example here, we're going to determine whether each event is impossible, unlikely, as likely as not, likely, or certain. We're going to look at rolling an odd number on a number cube. And a number cube is just a die. So there's 6 sides on it. So 1 through 6. Okay. So what we have to think about are our 6 outcomes. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. Those are our outcomes when we roll a die. Now, the odd outcomes are 1, 3, and 5. And things that are not odd, or as we know as even, 2, 4, and 6. Okay, so we have 3 chances out of 6 for something to be odd when you roll the die. So you get 50% because 3 over 6 simplifies to 1/2. So rolling an odd number is as likely as not. Okay. All right, how about same idea? We're still on a number cube here, rolling a number less than 2 on a number cube. So again, we got our 6 possible incomes, 1 through 6, but there's only one number that's less than 2. So we have a 1 in 6 chance of rolling that number 1. And therefore, rolling a number less than 2 is unlikely. It's not impossible, but it's not likely as well. How about rolling a 3 or more on a number cube? Again, we have our 6 outcomes, 1 through 6. And if you look, 3, 4, 5, and 6, all those numbers are greater than or equal to 3. 3 or higher. 1 and 2 are not. So we have 4 out of 6 chances that we'll roll the dice and the die, and it'll be 3 or more. So it's more than half of our outcomes are possible. And so rolling a 3 or more is likely. How about rolling 6 or more on a number cube? There are 6 possible outcomes for that again. 6 is the only way, this is the only one you're going to have. There's nothing higher than 6. So again, this is going to be unlikely because 1 out of 6 is an unlikely percentage. Okay, now, there's something called a complement of an event. And a complement of an event is the set of all outcomes that are not the event. So really quick, let me go backwards. This was the event, rolling a 6 or more. This, what was not the event, that is the complement. So we're going to be kind of focusing on the complement in a minute here. Okay, now if you take the probability of an event plus the probability of its complement, you're going to equal 1, which makes sense because these are the things that could happen. These are all the leftover things. When you add them together, that's everything. So therefore it's 1. So we're going to take a look at some complements here. Okay, there's a lot of words in this slide. Don't, get nervous or freak out. Let's extrapolate the important stuff, just like we do with all the word problems. Let's look for key words. Okay, so we have a bag which contains circular chips that are the same size and weight. When you get older and you take more advanced statistics courses, that kind of stuff, the size and weight and all that is important, okay, with statistics. We don't go into that. We're only in 7th grade, so we don't go into that crazy stuff yet. But believe it or not, that is important. Okay, I diverge. There are 8 purple, 4 pink, 8 white, and 2 blue chips in the bag. So if I were taking notes at this point, I'd write 8P, 4, maybe you should do P, or I don't know, purple, like abbreviate that to something, PU, and then 4 PI, 8 W, 2 B for blue. You can abbreviate or you can write the words out, okay? The probability of drawing a pink chip is 2/11, which makes sense because if we add, we've got 8 plus 4 is 12. 12 plus 8 is 20. 20 plus 2 is 22. So if I pull a pink chip out, it's 4 out of 22, but we know we can reduce that to 2/11. Okay, so always reduce fractions. What we're actually concerned about is what is the probability of not drawing a pink chip. So we're going to use that complement formula to figure it out. So we know that if we take the probability of the event plus the probability of the complement, that'll give us our answer of 1. Okay, so we know that for it to be pink, the likelihood is 2/11, and we're trying to figure out the likelihood of it not being pink. Okay, we're going to subtract 2/11 on both sides, and we get the probability of it not being pink, 9/11. If you're not sure, don't remember how to subtract fractions, you can change this to 11/11, okay? And if you need to simplify, this is already simplified, 9/11, so you're good to go. All right, so the probability of not drawing a pink chip is 9/11. Okay, this is the same idea, except these are buttons. We have 7 maroon buttons, 3 sky buttons. I'm assuming that's a bluish color. 5 white buttons and 5 lavender buttons. The probability of drawing a sky button is 3/20. What is the probability of not drawing a sky button? So again, you add those together. 7 plus 3 is 10. 5 plus 5 is 10. 10 plus 10 is 20. That's where we get this 20 here. And we know there's 3 sky buttons. So 3/20 is the chance of getting a sky button. So when we use our formula, and we plug in 3/20 for sky and add it to our not sky probability and set it equal to 1 and solve by subtracting 3/20 on both sides, we get the probability of it not being a sky button is 17/20. Okay. All right, now, here is just kind of like common sense-ish type stuff. It's just kind of talking through some words. There aren't any actual numbers, but it's kind of following a pattern. So this problem says, Mandy's science teacher almost always introduces a new chapter by conducting an experiment. Mandy's class finished a chapter on Friday. Should Mandy expect the teacher to conduct an experiment next week? Explain. So if we finished a lesson or a chapter on Friday, that means we're going to be starting a new chapter the next week, right? So she can probably expect an experiment. So it's very likely that the teacher will conduct an experiment. There's literally zero math behind this. This is just thinking through scenarios, and that's kind of what probability is all about. Using common sense and thinking about scenarios. All right, we're going to skip this because it's kind of the same thing. All right, so your homework is page 408, 5 to 15 all. And I'm going to have a Google form ready for you guys. Put your answers in the Google form, please, and submit it so I know that you have your work. If there's any work that you did, put it on a piece of paper and just put it in your binder for now, okay? All right, if you have any questions, please let me know. Have a good one.